It's the best. All right. So Steve Shaw, Massive Iron. We go way back. I started following Steve. Must have been 2012, maybe 2013. I originally I would read his articles on muscle and strength or muscle and brawn.
Yeah, muscle and brawn.
He wrote some of the original strength standard charts. So I discovered him first through reading his articles. And then I realized he had a YouTube channel, and it was called The Bearded Beast of Gulag.
Yeah.
And he was training at home in his dungeon. He was still fat at the time with his big beard, but he was super strong. I think he had said that he had done a 315 behind the neck press. And he inspired me a lot regarding his delt training advice, saying that presses did the most for him, And we've been talking for a number of years. He's always spoken good about him. I've said the same thing. And he dedicated his life to the iron. And he went through a massive weight loss transformation, got healthy, inspired the world. He's a coach who has a lot of clients, the experience to back it up. He's worked with every expert in the field, not just here in YouTube Fitness, but in person.
Mm-hmm.
He used to work for Tiger Fitness and do a lot of collaborations. Every big name you could think of, all the best bodybuilders, even Ronnie Coleman, like he's worked with them all. So he is a massive source of inspiration and information that you can never go wrong with Steve Shaw. He speaks from the heart. He's no BS. He's not here to fool you, and he's not here to be your typical influencer. So if you hit him up privately, or if you just watch his videos, you can see that he's a genuine guy. So nothing but love for Steve. And that's why I had to have him on the channel, of course, right? Then we got my man, Freaky D, the king of the natty bench press. Like, what he's done is so impressive. At the start, I remember he made a video responding to Eric Bugenhagen, and he's like, I'm natural too. And I thought he said that as a joke, like sarcastically, because he was benching like 550. But then I looked more into his stuff, and he actually was natty. And the feats of strength that he put up, I can't wrap my head around it, But it does make sense if you think about it when you weigh that much and you train properly, right? And he actually benched 405 in his first year. So we had some mini beef back in the day, when I used to do the rack pulls and I was young and dumb, But he always came at me from a place of love, and he wanted me to be better. So it was constructive criticism. It wasn't hating. There's a difference between the two.
Yep.
And, I had to have him on the channel because, number one, that whole thing was squashed, and we learned a lot from each other, and we both became better lifters. And look at his physique when he lost all that weight. Just goes to show that the bench press does work your chest. And even if you bulk, when you lose the body fat, you retain most of the strength. So he can still bench 440. It's not 550, but that's, considering how lean he got after that point, it's very impressive. And he's doing this as an older lifter as well, in his late 30s. So that also shows that you can continue to get stronger as you age. You don't have to fall victim to the natty limit or TRT thing that everyone's doing now, so young. And he's continuing to get better. And he's doing so while having a family. So there's no excuses. This is what could be done at a very high level. And that's what I'm all about. Who are the best natties? Let's put them on my platform. And he's definitely one of them. And then we got my man Faz Lifts. So Faz has actually been a supporter of my channel since the very beginning. I probably had less than 1,000 subscribers at the time.
Wow.
Yeah. So I really appreciate that. Faz is a true OG. He started lifting in the 90s. He was on the forums. He was a teacher as well. He's got so much information, and one of the best channels that you're ever going to see, because he talks with so much nuance. Such a positive man, so respectful as well. And everything, like when he speaks, you just understand him. And he speaks from a place of like he's read all the books, he's been in the forums, and he has the experience after training for 2 decades. And he also shows that you can look amazing in your 40s. And he's seen the transition. Like, how do you train when you're in your 20s, 30s, 40s? What splits? What volume? You know, he started with high intensity training, 1 set to failure, right? How did he evolve past that point? Well, he did powerlifting as well, bodybuilding, strongman. He's kind of like me. So I view him as an older version of myself.
Nice.
So Faz inspires me, and I love to see that his channel is starting to go well because he puts a lot of hard work into his videos. He has a lot to offer, and I just want to see him succeed. And the first time I talked with him, well, I was introduced to him through Steve Shaw, and we've been cool ever since. So him was a no-brainer. And then we got my man IYKYK. Also one of my favorite channels to watch. You know, so much good information on preserving your athletic ability. You know, people don't realize how old he is, but I believe he just turned 37. And does he look 37? No, you know? So he's continuing to get better with age. And what I really find interesting with him is that he's running the conjugate system. So I remember he used to, similar to Freaky D, we weren't on the best terms back in the day, mostly because the rack pulls thing. I caused a lot of controversy with that. God damn. What an exercise, man. People are still making videos about it today, and they're, don't do this exercise list. But he wasn't a fan of that. He preferred snatch grip high pulls and deficit deadlifts. And, you know, I generally agree for what he talks about. But eventually that, you know, that was done. And, you know, I checked out his content, and he trains very similar to myself, you know, calisthenics, free weights, athletic development. Like, it's kind of like the whole athletic aesthetic philosophy that Omar Isuf used to promote. That's what Alec embodies, but he's still doing it in his 30s, which is fantastic. And he has probably the best system I've seen for like being well-rounded, like, because he took variations of the Olympic lifts and used that to replace the dynamic effort method. So his take on conjugate is probably my favorite, if I'm being honest with you. I haven't bought his program, but from what I've seen in his workout vlogs and informative segments, I really mess with his philosophy. It's probably the closest thing you're going to find to mine, next to Bald Omni Man. Like, Bald Omni Man and I are similar regarding exercise selection, but less periodization wise. But the way on Curie, his templates, it looks very similar to me. And we stumbled upon that just through trial and error and being well-rounded through doing calisthenics and all that. So I love what he promotes, and I still follow him to this day, always learning. And the podcast we did together was super informative. So he's a must follow if you want to be athletic and you're someone who enjoys training at home. Then we got my man GVS, Jeffrey Verity Schofield, an absolute legend in the natty game. He has shaken this industry, showing that you can be big and shredded at the same time, doing so without being obsessed about your macros either, and showing us the path to limb dominance and lightening. He has the best arms in the Noble Natty crew. And although you could say there's a genetic component in that, the training methods speak for themselves. If you want to learn how to build a thick, juicy, meaty, long head, you got to watch GVS. He has all the tips that you need to fulfill your genetic potential, whatever that may be. His arms are closing in on 19 inches. I believe they're 18.75. And he is incredibly strong at these isolation lifts. I find it laughable and utterly insane how people say, oh, GVS is weak. Yet he's doing full range of motion, incline curls with 60-pound dumbbells. And what he does on the overhead extension, 110 pounds on a 1-to-1 cable pulley, brother, I gotta tell you, I can't even do 90 pounds on that exercise. I'm doing 80 pounds. Yet I close grip bench 380. So GVS has freaky long head strength, very strong biceps. And is it a coincidence that his arms are his best body part? No, it is not. Cause and effect. And when people argue, is GVS natty or not, it's always talking about his damn arms. It's not his chest or his back or his legs. Those are all super impressive. Absolutely. And I always said it that GVS had an incredible physique. When we first did our interview together, it was before he went through this transformation, right? I'm looking at him like, God damn. Because he sent me all this B-roll. And I see him when he's sprinting outside in China. And just him running, I see like, that's a frame. That's a physique.
Mm-hmm.
Imagine when he puts on even more muscle. And look at that. He ended up having the most impressive physique out of all of us. So he is an absolute inspiration. I look up to him. I'm always learning from his videos. He never sold out. He's honest. He's reliable. He's been on a lot of podcasts. Like GVS is a super real one. And I've said it like years ago, like get a camera, bro. And he still hasn't done it. He's still filming off that cell phone. Super nice guy. He's just, he's here to make a real difference. He does this because he loves it. And he's going to have a real legacy, man. People are going to look back on GVS like, wow, this man changed my life in a super positive way. So I have nothing but respect for this man. He is an absolute legend in every way. And I think he's done so much for this community. So bless you, brother. Truly. Over here, we got my man, Bald Omni-Man. So out of all the Noble Natties, I would say that our training philosophy aligns the most in terms of exercise selection and strength. We're the most similar in terms of what we can display performance-wise. However, he's officially bigger than me. In the last 2 years or so, he's definitely made more progress, and he's looking massive. Like he's even got striated pecs without being as lean. He's got the big delts. He's chasing that 315 AD press, benching 315 for reps on the Omni Bar. Omni Bar, his latest creation, which I recently bought to support him. Fantastic. Definitely an upgrade over the original Arch Nemesis. And Paris Butler, that's his name. He's an authentic person who essentially came from nothing. So he's humble. Even when you meet him in person, he's the most similar to, like, how he's a fan of Berserk, and you can kind of see that with his tattoos. Even personality-wise, he reminds me of Guts. Like he lives this kind of lifestyle and he has a background playing RPG games, like Final Fantasy. So he views lifting as an RPG where you're always leveling up your character, your stats, right? So he's always addressing like, what can I improve upon? And in RPGs, the grind is long. And so is the natty game, right? Of lifting. So that's why he's not worried about natty limits. And he said that was the first thing he said with our podcast. First, let me announce that there's no such thing as the natty limit. And look how far he has continued to progress. So, and Paris and I go way back. He's been commenting on my videos since 2017, at least from what I remember, but it might have been even before that. And he's only progressed since then. So we have very similar training experience. We're about the same age. We both love anime. You see him in that photo, rocking the shades. He made that cool again. I love his little compilations that he's doing recently. Just a genuine, nice person who is the jack of all trades. Excels at weighted pull-ups. He's loving the dips. He kills it with all the free weighted stuff, even the machines. Like there's nothing this man can't do in the gym. And he's jacked as hell. Even more so now. So, yeah, obviously him, I had to have him on the channel. And I'm glad I did, He's a friend of the channel. He's a friend of mine. Nothing but respect. Then we got Basement Bodybuilding. he is the man who successfully took down the spider physique. And the reason why I put Basement on my channel in the first place is because I saw a younger version of myself. His story, I don't want to say it almost brought me to tears, but it was the same as mine, you know, that he got bamboozled into following a power building advice, getting a super strong squat, bench, and deadlift. And then his arms were stuck at 16 inches. Oh, man, do I feel you? Because I had the same measurement. And then what is this? His name is Landon. What does he do? He comes out with the road to 18 inches and he does it. And he documents the journey. Respect. And of course, leading up to that point, he was already discussing his philosophy. And it was so nuanced. I'm like, wow, you are one hell of a critical thinker. So he's laying the groundwork. You could see the buildup. He's saying that, you know, these are the problems with the philosophy you're currently following. These are the things you could do to make it better. And most importantly, I'm going to prove it to you. And he did. You know, so he has a wealth of information regarding bodybuilding advice. He has a lot of different machines in his basement gym. It is complete, and each piece has been carefully selected. He has a very good understanding on biomechanics, on stability. And what's cool about him is that he is, like, I would say his numbers are elite, but he doesn't care about it. To him, it's just, I'm big. I'm big because, hold on, because he likes to be wordy with this. I'm strong because I'm big. You know, I'm not big because I'm strong. You know, progressive overload is not the driver of hypertrophy. It's only evidence that hypertrophy has already taken place. So he's the one who made that switch popular. Okay. And that's what he embodies. Like, he can do a 315 Smith bench for reps. Like, we're lifting a similar amount. Guaranteed. If we did like a powerlifting specialization phase, probably this year he could bench 405 raw. You know, because he's objectively strong at all these lifts. He does JM presses with over 225 for reps. I've yet to do that. The max I've done is 205, you know. And he's strong at all the arm isolations. I think he does preacher curls with 115 full range of motion, like super strict, but it probably even gone heavier than that. Yeah, I can go on, but if you watch his Road to 18 Inches series and all of his informative segments, you're going to see that they're very well thought out. And what's cool is that he doesn't have to script everything that he does. A lot of stuff I do is scripted these days, but with him, he's just so smart and so, like, he can just come up with these ideas at the top of his head that he could just give it to you one go without stuttering. And it's impressive. It's impressive to see that. I respect men who can speak for like 20, 30 minutes straight and there's no hiccups. It's just boom, 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 information. Like, that's how you know that he knows what he's talking about. So him was an absolute no-brainer, and he's still one of the best sources for information. And then to end off, natural hypertrophy, probably the man who united the Noble Natty community. You can credit a lot to him. It would either be a tie between him and Paris Butler, but he is a French badass that I can relate to on a lot of levels regarding his background. And what's cool is that he gives not only fitness advice, but also philosophy. And whenever people ask me, like, where can I learn about this information, I just direct them to natural hypertrophy, because he has these deep dives that go on for like 2 or 3 hours. And what's crazy is that if you look at his original videos that he used to post, again, just like basement bodybuilding, but this time amplified, he's able to speak nonstop, almost like it's an essay. He's making an essay on the spot, and he doesn't waver. He's so sharp. Like, for me to do videos like he does, you would see all kinds of cuts, you know? But he's able to just talk and talk and talk, and he's articulate. what a gift. And I believe he's done some teaching as well. But for me to get even to a fraction of that level, like that's where I would say I'm at. And it took me damn near a decade to do so, of making YouTube videos. And he comes in like not even after a year, just boom, deep dives on hypertrophy, philosophy, all these topics. So he's super intelligent. And that's why he's created his own private thing, which I can only imagine the quality on that. Probably similar, but more edited and all that. But, you know, he's just a super smart guy. And he also doesn't believe in the natty limit. He's the one who made me realize it doesn't actually exist. Because back then, I used to say, like, the ultimate accomplishment is when you hit the limit. And then you got him saying, well, you never will. And that your physique will actually get better as you age. And then I started looking back at the Silver Era guys who inspired me. And I'm seeing like, yeah, they did get better with age. A lot of them like peaked under 40s. You know, certainly John Grimmick, right? But it was never under 20s. It was never after 5 years of lifting. It was always later in life. And I just love the nuance that he brings to his channel. He makes you think. He makes you reflect. And we have very good chemistry if you watch our podcast together. He's fun. Again, I can keep complimenting him all day about his intelligence, but I really respect him. And I think his name, Natural Hypertrophy, is super appropriate. And he's the one who made all of us really come together. And so I had to have him on the channel and would love to do so again.